Okay, welcome everybody to another Creatress Rising show. Today we have a very beautiful, very special guest, Dr. Valerie. And Dr. Valerie is a clinical sexologist. She is the host of the Brown Sugar Confession show. She's been featured in many amazing magazines such as Cosmopolitan, Men's Health, and Shape. And she is an all-round amazing human being, and I'm really excited to have her on the show. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you so much, Tamara. What a sweet welcome. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here, everybody. How are you?
Yeah, so good, so good. Awesome. Valerie, today we're going to talk about sex, and I'm so ready for it. You know, we've been talking about the body for 7 days. This is day 7, and it's time. It really, really is time. So I want to hear about your journey into becoming a clinical sexologist, but I know you and your partner teach tantra workshops and all sorts of really beautiful things around relationships and sex and sexual health. And so tell me about your journey, how you got there.
Oh, thank you for that question, because it's something I love to share a little bit about my background and why I went into clinical sexology. I'm from America, and my background is African American and Native American. And so I grew up actually in a little reservation in Delaware, a little small one. And growing up in that environment, you know, sex was something we didn't talk about. We didn't have conversations around what is sex, what's not sex, birth control, something we never talked about. And my journey into my self-awareness, into my own sexuality and sexual authenticity really came when I got married. I love to share the story about my husband. He's from Germany. And I always, if anyone's from Germany on here, I love y'all. I'll make a crazy joke, but it's just a joke. Like, Germans are the most open sexual people I've ever met.
Okay.
Just so open and just so free in their bodies and who they are, and they own it. And my husband's like, why are you always so timid and shy? You're such a beautiful sexual woman. Why do you always hold back? And I'm like, well, good girls don't. He's like, what do you mean good girls don't? And and that came from my background. And so my husband has a son on the spectrum, and he's an adult. And as I was working with him, I noted that the population of those that are on the spectrum, and also those that have autism, sometimes end up in the system because they sexually are inappropriate in their actions and their words. Yeah. And I was looking for help for that particular population. And there was nothing available in the US. And so my husband and I were having a conversation. He's like, well, why don't you go to school and, work on sexual science and sexology? And I did. And I actually built a program for those that are on the spectrum, for young adults, I would say, on the spectrum, how they can manage a sexual healthy relationship and what that looks like for them. So I built a whole program for that population. And from that, I started working in more of the sexual sciences, sexual research. And then doing my clinical practice, I went in, decided to do Tantra, because I found Tantra very beneficial in healing. And I'm a strong believer that if every couple learns Tantra, it will cut down on divorce in half. I really believe that. I don't have any proof to it. It's just old Val's feeling. But that is what I believe. And so I really became one of the individuals, especially during the lockdown, that was a really big advocate for women and sexual expression and what that looks like and how to be sexually expressed and how to get closer with your partner when we're locked down and can't stand them after a year and a half. and how to build closer and be more intimate spiritually with your partner. And that's kind of my foray into my work as a clinical sexologist. It was really, my husband was my motivating force, and he still is my biggest cheerleader.
Awesome. Awesome. And so, you know, sexual health and, you know, the energetic side of sexuality and all those kinds of things has been suppressed in us for a really, really long time. And I still feel like so many women out there, and including myself at times, it's like, you know, we run around kind of feeling like I'm fine, everything's fine, but nothing's really fine in our sexuality. And so how does not being fully expressed or fully aligned or fully embodied in our sexuality, how does that affect the rest of our life, really?
Okay, that's a really great question. You know, sexual expression and sexual health is a very large part of our humanity. And to choose to deny it is one thing. Many choose not to be sexual, and that is your right. But for those that want to have and choose to have sexual expression and be sexual, but aren't really sure of how to be and how to get into your body, it can show up in so many ways that don't align with your mind, your body, your energy, your emotions, and your spirit. Spiritually and mentally, you know, if you're in a relationship and you're not being sexually fulfilled and don't feel like giving sexual expression to your partner, that can have a detrimental effect on the relationship. For women and men, all genders that have been sexually abused, it shows up as an adult, and it can affect your sexuality and your relationship. For people that have had illnesses, people that have gone through cancers and other serious injuries, sexual health and sexual wellness also shows up in that population. So I can go on and talk to you about the myriad different types of ways that it can show up if you're not fully self-expressed and what it makes you feel. For me, I don't feel alive if I'm not sexually expressed. It's a part of me that's missing, not to be grounded in my body.
And in the, you know, given that we're in the Creatress Rising, you know, arena here, and it's all about raising our feminine energy so that we have more energy to be fully expressed and those kinds of things. Where's a good place for women to start if they've never even looked into sex, you know, or explored it within themselves? Like where do you start looking at your sexual health as a whole, you know, both physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically? Like where do we start?
I think the first place you want to start, and I always tell women this, and I use the word women, so I say those that identify as women. That's what I'll use as my terminology.
Sure.
The first thing I recommend is get a physical and get a full, and I know people say, get a physical. I'm like, yes, go to your MD, get a physical, and get a full panel of blood series done, including your hormones, your testosterone levels, because we need testosterone just as much as males do. So I always tell people, let's get a full blood panel on you first. And many doctors, unless you ask for it, especially in the Americas, they do not give you that type of test. So that's the first thing that I recommend that we do. And once we get that back, then we can work on a plan that's going to first talk to your mind. As we get the body, right, we get the body results, then we go to the mind. Because women get turned on in our minds first. That is where it's called vague steering happens It's in our minds. A beautiful memory that we once had. Having a love story read to us, watching something on TV, we get turned on here first. Most men are here. And so getting into the mind to see what's going on upstairs. Like, are you so busy that you don't have time to let yourself be sexually active here first, in the mind first? Is there depression where you just don't have the energy? Are you menopausal, perimenopausal, that, the hormones are changing? So that's the first place I would go to, or second place. First place is getting the body checked. And second place for your own, that you could do yourself, is getting the mind. Like, what's going on upstairs that's causing that blockage where you don't feel like getting turned on and not in the mood to be sex.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And then there's so many places that you can go from there, really, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
And it's, from my understanding, from my own journey, it's like there's as much to explore in our own sexuality and the healing side of things in our sexuality than there is in the rest of the body.
It is, absolutely.
It is a place that humanity at the moment, for the last probably 2,000 years, has been very suppressed in most cultures. And so as a cultural kind of global, more so like the culture of humanity at the moment, where would you say we're at with lifting ourselves out of that and really becoming fully self-aware around our sexuality?
I think people now are starting to realize that for many, many years, we have not lived to be fully sexually self-expressed. And normally it is something around guilt and shame that has hindered us from stepping out into who we are as a sexual beings, be it our cultural background, be it something that happened to us when we were younger. Perhaps our race doesn't really talk about sexual expression, and also just being a woman. As I told you in my beginning, good girls don't. And so there's a lot of shame and guilt around being sexual. Are you a whore if you're sexual? Are you a slut? All of these horrible labels that society has put on women, and we've worn them for so long. And I think we're at a point now where we're saying, screw the labels. If I choose to have 50 partners at a night, that's my business. As long as it's consensual, right? Yeah. As long as it's consensual and you're taking care of yourself, who cares? It's your business. You're a grown woman. You know your body and what you need and what you want. And so I'm a big believer in no shame and no judgment. So I think now is the time for women to rise and be self expressed and break those barriers down around sex and with shame and guilt. So This summit is perfect.
And what do you feel like is waiting for us as women when we are fully self-expressed with our sexuality?
Girl, a good time. Okay, that's it.
For a good time, call Val. No.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Good time, right? He's like, hey, that's a wrap. Good time. But yeah, it's really, what you're waiting for is really a great time. Your feel-good hormones, actually, the oxytocin is released in your body. And so chemically speaking, you do feel good about yourself. You feel good about your body, about your mind. You just feel clearer and you're happier because that feel-good hormone has been released. And whether it's learning about self-love, self-pleasure, or pleasure with your partner, you can't go wrong as long as consensual and it's safe and you're healthy and all the parties are agree and consensual, I say, let's just rock it out. Let's just do it and have a good time.
Absolutely. And what I really got there, Val, when I listened to you, it's like, if we go out and we have a good dance with our girlfriends one night, that's a good time kind of on one level. But when, you know, when you are fully self-expressed and you're fully present with your sexuality and you have healed, then that's a good time on every level of your being. And
absolutely.
That's pleasure and joy and goodness that vibrates from within you and just oozes out of every cell of your body has been awakened, you know?
Exactly. It's very, very true. And that's why I love to teach Tantra, because it does awaken that sexual chakra that has been closed for so long. And you're starting to feel that Kundalini rising within your spirit. And when it does, oh, it's absolutely beautiful. And it's mind-bending when you're fully self-expressed and you give yourself permission to be self-expressed. We often don't do that as women. We don't give ourselves permission to go there because of this whole societal shame and guilt around a woman being self-expressed.
Absolutely. So Val, what is it that you really want to share with all women? Like, if there was one thing that you could gift to the humanity, really, because if you give it to women, you're giving it to men. But if there was one thing that you could really gift to us, what would that knowledge be?
That's a really good question. I love that. I got to put my thinking cap on. So the one thing I would give to humanity, and this might sound crazy, but I'm going to say it, education around sexual health and sexual wellness, because we are ignorant.
We really
are. I could draw a roadmap for some guys and they would still miss the mark. They missed the turn. You know who you are out there, right? So
I'm not watching this interview, I'm sorry. And so, Val, you have got something really exciting, and I know I'm really excited about it, but you've got something really beautiful that you're putting together to put inside of the Creatress Rising app for these women to experience. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
I can. I'm super excited to offer this. And it is going to be, I'm going to talk about each sexual concern that a woman may experience. I will go into the causes and effects of that, educate you around that, and then give you practical step-by-step remedies to help you with that sexual concern. This has not been done before. This is going to be, you're talking about huge. This is huge. If you are suffering from low desire and you've been to your doctor, you don't know what to do next, we're going to have some resolutions for you. Whether you need it today or next week or next, it's going to be there for you. If you have shame and guilt because you were sexually abused as a younger person and you haven't been able to move that forward from your energetic body, I'm going to go into that and give you some practical, applicable steps that you can do that can help you with that. And I'm also going to talk to you about some not only tips, but also how to align your body and to release sexual energy and understand that there are 14 different types of female orgasms. And I'm going to also gift that to the group to help you understand. Maybe you don't have the first one, but you might have like one or the other, So It's going to be so awesome. I'm so excited for this.
Great. Thank you so much, Val, because that is really huge. And I think one of the biggest things about, getting comfortable and relaxing and trusting your sexual journey is to just release some of those worries that we might have. So this feels like a really beautiful thing that we can watch all of them and just go through and release some of those, you know, what's happening questions that we might have. Is that right? Is that how it's meant to be? Those kinds of things. So that's so beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. So if you haven't already gone and got your 7-day free trial for the app, make sure you do jump in to that place where you're supposed to jump into. Download the free trial of the app and we will see you in there.
Absolutely. Thank you so, so much, Tamara. I'm so looking forward to it. And see you, community out there. Yes. Love you guys. Stay safe and play safe.
Thanks, Val.
Bye-bye.